So now I want to talk to you about some vocabulary, okay? This presentation is under week 1, okay? And this is the presentation that I would have showed you, okay? And then asked you the question, okay, based on these photos, what do you think we're going to learn? Okay, what do we see? Okay, and so there's things like eye colors down at the bottom. So maybe how to describe eye color. We have hair color swabs. So maybe to describe someone's hair color. The guy shaving his bald or combing his bald head, how to describe that somebody has no hair. They're bald. Okay, maybe this guy screaming at this poor little old lady, she's probably hard of hearing, or perhaps she's even deaf. So to describe that someone is deaf. And so here, this person, this is actually a book, okay, called El Gordo, which is fat. Okay, so to describe someone as fat or skinny. And then down at the bottom here, this guy walking with the dog, he's blind. So someone's maybe blind, they're bald, they're deaf, they're fat, they're skinny, they're redhead, they're blonde. They have blue eyes, they have dark brown eyes, they have light green eyes. Okay, and so all of that descriptions is basically what these pictures are showing you. And this picture up onto the left here shows you that, okay? Tall, small, old, young. How to describe characteristics. So let's move on. Now this is where we're going to have a lot of note-taking. So this note-taking should have been done already. But this is just me talking you through it. Probably better than you doing it on your own, okay, I would assume. And just helpful to hear it instead of just seeing it. So the question that you must remember for this unit is what you see in that tealish blue color, ¿Cómo es? Now we just talked about ser, right? And we know that es is a form of ser, which means to be. So look at the question word wall, and what does ¿Cómo mean? What or how? Okay, so how are you? Okay, we don't want to say what are you, because what are you? You're a person. Okay, so it's how are you? It's the way to express how are you like. So in my notebooks I put ¿Cómo es? How are you like? Not how are you feeling? Because back in the very first few months, we talked about how are you feeling, and what was that question? Think. How are you feeling? I feel good, I feel bad. How did I ask that question? ¿Cómo estás? Right? Well, this doesn't say ¿Cómo estás? So they're not the same. ¿Cómo estás from the first few weeks of school is how are you feeling? My feeling and emotions. Okay? And ¿Cómo es is how are you like personality or character traits or characteristics. Okay, character traits, maybe I'm kind, I'm mean, I'm loud, I'm quiet or reserved. And characteristics could be I'm blonde, I'm brunette, I'm tall, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm deaf. Okay, so I'm describing how a person is like. And that's what that question means. And actually, I just gave you a difference between estar and ser. By what I just said, I gave you a difference on estar and ser. ¿Cómo estás? My feeling is estar. ¿Cómo es? Es comes from ser, which is my personality traits or my characteristics. So my feelings and characteristics are two different verbs to be. All right, so ¿Cómo es? How are you like? I use ser, to be. The first word here. Now, all the words we see here are what? I'm hoping that you're saying to yourself adjectives, because they are describing people. So adjectives and nouns in Spanish do two things. And what are those two things? They agree in gender, male or female, and number, singular or plural. And so why there's so many things in parentheses is to show you just that. Now, I've told you many times, gender does not mean, how do I say if the bathroom is male or female? How do I tell if the bathroom, a place, is male or female? No. Don't think biological makeup. It's not a biological characteristics. It's just a grammar functionality. Okay, English has lost this because English derived from various different languages. And a lot of those languages had these characteristics, okay, where nouns and adjectives had gender. And we lost it over the years because of various different reasons, okay? But in Spanish, that's still true. Gender and number is a thing, and I need to learn how to use that and understand that. So when I see endings in parentheses like I see here, I think to myself, okay, this word always agrees in gender and number. Now you might say, okay, well, some of them have more parentheses than others. True. But I've told you before that adjectives that end in O or A have 4 forms. So if I'm a person who likes to write things out and not necessarily have pictures or charts, I write this. Adjectives that end in an O or A, adjectives that end in O or A have 4 forms. Those 4 forms are O, A, OS, and AS. Now, a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, why is she saying this again? I'm saying it again for those of you who had forgotten. I'm saying it again because maybe somebody that didn't pay attention when I said it previously just now paid attention. Okay, so I'm reiterating this information because you need to have it. And if you lost it or forgot it or didn't hear it, maybe you heard it now. So adjectives that end in O or A have 4 forms. And adjectives that end in any other letter have 2. So let me ask all of you. I see this square and it says flaco. Okay, how many forms does it have? I'm hoping you all either said out loud or said to yourself it has 4 forms because it ends in O. Adjectives that end in O have 4 forms. Okay, but joven, go right under flaco. Joven. Does that end in O or A? No. So how many forms does it have? 2. Okay, it has 2 forms. And those 2 forms are N and ES. Now, is it always going to be an N? No, of course not, because I said any other letter other than O or A have 2 forms. All right, now as I'm talking, you should be writing these words down. Write them down in Spanish. I'm going to give you the translation. Okay, so I'm at the top bullet point. It says ciego, blind. And everybody should be writing that English translation unless you already knew it meant blind. Yes, I will be grading your notes, so make sure you have them somewhere so that I can see them. A lot of you should have already done this, okay? Because to the first bullet point, ciego means blind. Second bullet point, gordo. Well, I told you from the first slide that gordo meant fat. So in my notebooks, I put ciego means blind and gordo means fat. And they end in O, so they have 4 forms because they agree in gender and number when I use them grammatically. Okay, third bullet point, delgado is thin. someone is thin. And then underneath that is flaco. Well, it's not a bullet point. So there's a similarity between delgado and flaco. And the similarity is just like we have in English, we can say someone is thin or we can say someone is skinny. Now, typically, English speakers might say they're synonyms. They mean the same thing, thin and skinny. They mean the same thing. I would agree with that thin and skinny mean the same thing. Okay? But there is, or there may be, okay, I should say there may be a connotation of a difference. Okay, señorita, what do you mean? Well, I mean that maybe when someone's describing someone and they call them thin, they're just saying that their stature or their physical appearance is thinner. Okay, and it's not a bad thing or a good thing, it's just my observation. But I might poke fun at someone, maybe someone who has an eating disorder, and call them skinny. Oh my gosh, they're so skinny, way too skinny. Okay, I'm watching the Grammys and I look at someone and I say, she's way too skinny. And in that connotation where it's a little bit like poking or maybe slightly laced with something like, oh, I don't know if that's so healthy, I'd say flaco. Well, and in my example, I should have said flaca. Why? I said it was a girl. Okay? So, in a sense, delgado and flaco mean the same thing. But flaco can have more of a negative connotation where maybe you're being a little bit malicious or mean. Okay? So, I would say delgado is is thin. Delgado is thin and flaco is skinny. Okay, let's move on. Joven. Young. Young in age. And then under that we have the opposite of young, which is old. So viejo is old. So write this down with me. Joven means young in age, and viejo means old when I'm describing someone's age. Maybe they look very old, so I call them viejo. Okay, so let's go down. We're at sordo. Means deaf. Now here's a way to remember it, okay? I had a student once tell me S stands for sound. And if I can't hear sounds, then I'm deaf. So maybe that's a way to remember that sordo means deaf. I can't hear sounds. Okay, so we're going to move down a little. We got travioso. So now we're on the third bullet point, travieso. Ooh, which is naughty or mischievous. Some of you might have heard your parents say, you're so naughty. Why did you do that? So you're travioso or traviosa. And then the last one is mudo. And mudo is mute. And so the same student that said S for sound, and if I can't hear sounds, I'm sordo or deaf, said that M for mute. Okay, mudo is so close to the word mute. And if I'm a mute, I can't speak. Okay, so mudo is just that. So it is just that. It's that person is mute. Okay, that person is callado. Callado is another way to say shut. Okay, like their mouth. So they're shy. Now mudo can be. Some people will use it as dumb. Okay, but in our purposes, that's not, it doesn't only mean that, okay? So mudo means you're mute. Okay, so these are the things that we have that you'll need to know. Let's go over from the top. Ciego, blind. Gordo, fat. Delgado, thin. Flaco, skinny. Joven, young. Viejo, old. Sordo, deaf. Travieso, naughty, mischievous. Mudo, mute.